Hello, welcome to your Sims Circular Summer Sanctuary. We're all collapsing from the heat in the UK right now, but you're not because you have this pool, isn't that nice? Even the rooms are curved, so no more banging your elbows on protruding corners. Ignore that protruding corner. The air is so fresh with the scent of far too many plants you'll almost entirely forget about deforestation. Those sheets of bamboo. But let's not just stare like a gormless Labubu doll, and I'll show you how I built this. Starting with the exterior, because where else would we start? And as you can see, this is already looking circular, so that's nice. So let me set the scene, okay? I've just returned from 2 weeks in Portugal as a slightly darker shade of insipid beige. And I turn on The Sims, ready to ease back into building in my new life as a mildly tanned person. And I plan to do something like a tiny summer villa. And then this rounded grass item, it just like winked at me from the live edit menu. And the next thing I know, I'm drawing around it to make a house shape, and the plan has completely changed to create an entirely curved build on a split level terrain sculpt complete with custom rounded walls and furnishings. And this is why I struggle to do more than one build a week. But here we are, making curves on a rigid square grid system. So I've drawn around this grass thing, and I'm like making this house. This lot is very small. You've probably realised that already. That was my mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, I know what I was thinking. I was thinking I was going to do an easy small build, and then that did not happen. So we reached this point where I started to do this terrain sculpting, which is another unnecessary thing I thought I would add to this build to make it even more complicated for myself. And there wasn't much room to make a hill behind this, so you will see that we're going to move to a different lot in the same, well, it's going to be in the same world. We're in Glimmerbrook, which I think sounds like the name of a family-friendly drag queen, but that's not important. So I'm just smoothing out the terrain here. And then we're going to have a little bit of a jump. Here we are. We're on a new lot now. It's suddenly got bigger. Isn't that amazing? A little bit of magic. And this grass swatch that we did like for a few moments, we're going to get rid of that because we don't like that anymore. And we're going to also make the build a little bit bigger because I thought, you know what, we're in a bigger lot, we can actually do a bit more here. So I am going to teach you a few things during this build, a few little tips and tricks. However, they will be few and far between. Most of the video is going to be a bit like you. Imagine if you were like a whale sifting through a gallon of seawater for a few kilograms of krill. That's a little bit what this video is going to be like. The rest of it's just going to be garbled nonsense. So I'm making a front for this house because I realised that it couldn't all be a circle because how would I put a nice door on it? So I, in my infinite wisdom, did decide that I could do a better job of a curved grass than the curved grass item, which I can because I am very esports at curved grass, but it is quite time consuming. So what you're going to see me doing here is basically rotating this tiny little grass tile a whole bunch of times. And if you're familiar with my channel, you will know that it is somewhat of a specialty that I do often place the same item over and over and over again, quite a large number of times. So get used to that. But this is all I'm just eyeballing it, to be honest, and adjusting it as I go along to see how I want this curved shape to look. But I wanted this to be very flowy. I wanted it to look like it was quite organic within the hill. It doesn't exist yet, but we will get there. I mean, the hill does exist, but it's not really blending into the house yet. There's this gap around it. We'll fix that. That will be one of the tips that I'm going to show you how to do. But now I've decided that apparently one level wasn't enough and a curved house itself wasn't too challenging for me. And that I needed to actually make this a split level build as well that sinks into the ground. So yeah, I just decided apparently that I'd had too much of a break while in Portugal. I needed to just do everything in this build. So that's going to be fun for me, isn't it? This took me quite a few days. It wasn't meant to. It was meant to be just a small little nice happy clappy build, but it's turned out to be this very large, complicated thing. So we're just going to move to the top and continue making another custom little grass roof thing that just circles around, and it's going to circle around the entirety of the top. You see the outline of the top there? Yeah, well, I'm pretty much going to ignore the whole thing and make a new top because I like just giving myself these annoying little jobs to do in every single build. And you might think this is quite laborious and takes up a lot of mental power, but it actually doesn't, because all I've really done is made one decision in what I'm going to do here, and then the rest of it is just sort of leisurely placing the same item and rotating it around quite a few times, which does give me a lot of chance to just, you know, like sit and watch the news or whatever. And then I normally find that I've finished my task before I've even finished my mental breakdown about the state of the world. So so now I'm going to just lower this terrain here at the front because I decided that I hadn't got enough levels in this split level build that wasn't even meant to be a split level build. And we're going to start using the, well, it's technically the platform tool to lower some ground into the ground. Ground is present in this build. And we're doing this because we're going to place a pool out here, and that also is going to be a custom curved pool, which I didn't need to do, but decided that I did actually need to do because I wanted the challenge, I guess. So, as a quick 5-minute recap for those like myself with a trash attention span, we already have a curved split level exterior shell, terrain sculpting to prepare to blend that into a hill, the beginning of a custom curved grass roof, and a sunken garden space. So, we're just keeping this really simple today, guys. Really simple. But I'm using these curved pieces of platforms to, the idea was that I wanted to just do a curved build in every aspect, regardless. It's just, it was a bizarre decision that I decided to do all of these other things on top of that. But lowering this into the ground, and we can actually start to make a pool. No, we're not. Never mind. We're moving around. You can see here there's a gap underneath this second level. As I said, this isn't blended into the hill because the game's not going to let you do that. You can't terrain sculpt up to a wall, but there is a trick for this I'm going to show you. You need to pay attention. This might be the only actual useful thing in this build. You're going to take some wooden slats and not place them on the outside like I'm doing here, because that doesn't work. It's a bit like getting your forearm fat shamed by a Pringles can. You're going to do that on the inside instead because that's far easier. And we're going to go around, and I'm just placing 3 of these at a time next to each other, and by doing that with these wooden slats, it kind of makes a wall pretty much. It does have some slight gaps in it, but if you zoom out you can't tell. It's fine, don't worry about it. So we're doing that all the way on the inside here, and the trick here is once we delete this wall, you'll see that they stay where they are even though the terrain pops back up again. So by doing that here, and then by colouring these in white, I've pretty much made it look like, so long as you squint a little bit, that this actually blends into the terrain. So that's a nice little trick if you do want to do these split levels and you've got the terrain up to the wall of your build. You're able to do that, so you've just been empowered. You're welcome. And now we're going to move on to the pool, which again is going to be curved. Why wouldn't it be? Why would I make it easy for myself? So here you'll see me doing slight pauses, trying to eyeball how I'm going to do this pool. I'm trying to figure out what it's going to look like at the end. But once I've done that here, I'm actually going to make some custom curves for the customly curved pool, which is just, why wouldn't I do that? It's just not curved enough, is it? So I'm using these cottage cheese living, whatever it's called, roof beams, and placing them over and over and over and over and over again, as you can see here, lining them up. And the issue here, there was a slight problem, is that I can elevate them from the pool floor, but once I get close enough to the edge of the pool, they start just pinging up to the next level. So I had to align these quite a bit. As you can see, some are above that level and some are below them. But this is just repeatedly, again, doing the same thing while I watch the news and have an existential crisis until I finish this shape that I wanted to do to curve this edge of the pool into the existing pool edge. And once that's done, I'm going to use the tool mod. And if you don't know what the tool mod is, I would point you to my tool mod tutorial video, which is very helpful, except that doesn't exist. So you're going to have to go and watch someone else for that, I'm afraid. But we've lowered these down with the tool mod, and then because there's some Z-fighting of the texture, if you just alternate them and then nudge them up like 0.01 pixel or something, that sort of solves that issue. So I've gone round and I've done the entire edge of this. I've done a little bit more detailing using these roof beam pieces. And now we have this lovely custom curved pool, which, was it worth the time and effort? Probably not, but there we go. And now to make life even more difficult for myself, I'm going to take those pieces and I'm going to go around them to create an edge for my custom curved grass roof things. So I'm not going to show you all that because that's laborious, isn't it? There we go, it's done. Magic. And again, I'm going to use this to create a little edge for the platform here because I wanted that to be a bit more custom. Now that doesn't remain because the sim can't actually step over those because, who knows why. But there we go. So now, as you can see, the build has changed a little bit. I have painted the walls here and picked out some doors and windows. I'm not going to show you me selecting all of these wallpapers and floors because if I showed you that, it would be a little bit like when your dog takes every toy out into the garden and just flings them all over the place with no particular decision making going on. And you'll just have to accept that this build's going to change in the style of the exterior wallpaper as we go through it, and eventually it will land on a final solution. But I'm using these windows, and these are CC. They're from Harry's Clean Collection. There is some CC in this build, you'll see as we go through. It's not crazy CC, it's Maxis Match, so don't worry about that. And then another piece that is CC are these wall items, and that is the majority of my CC because I do like making all of these ridiculously detailed custom wall elements that aren't really necessary, but I like doing them because it's a repetitive task that keeps my brain calm in a world that's full of crisis. So we've got lots of these pieces, and the creators who I find are really good for these are Harry and Felix. If you don't have CC, but you are on PC, that rhymed, I do suggest you maybe look at these creators because they have a lot of these nice pieces that you can't really find anything similar in base game. You don't need to download a bunch of like kitchen sets or furniture sets because we have those. But for these little pieces to make things a little bit more custom, I do enjoy a little bit of CC. So now I'm going to use another piece, which is a Felix piece from his Soho set, I believe. And we're once again going to do something that isn't necessary and is custom and curved. And this is really clever, and I'm actually quite proud of this bit. I came up with this all by myself. So these are wall pieces, which means you can't rotate them 360 degrees. They want to just stick to the 90 degree snapping when you press the square bracket keys. So to make this a curve, I did this little trick where I've used the pool edge to sort of align them. And then we've played this whole game of taking each piece on a magical mystery tour to try and avoid any other wall piece that it could potentially snap to and turn to a different orientation to eventually place it in the position where I want that piece to be. So this is just a lot of repeating to try to figure out what the angle is. And I know that this potentially looks like I'm making this look easy, but I have had a lot of practice in eyeballing what an angle and a line should be. I'm quite good at shapes. I was really good as a toddler, that bucket with the holes in it and the different shapes. I would always get the right shape in the right hole. So I did have somewhat of a little bit of a head start when it came to my education about shapes. But if you do struggle with shapes, you just need to practice. And I know everyone says that, but I see a lot of people who say, they're like, I can't draw. I really wish I could draw, but I can't draw, or things like that. But they never draw. It's like, of course you can't draw, because you don't draw. I can't perform heart surgery because I don't do heart surgery. I could maybe learn. You might not want to be someone I test on to learn to do that, but I feel like I could maybe do that if I practiced, like drawing circles. So we're going to add a hedge lining up with the same rotation of this curved wall because we need to get a lot of green in this build. This is your tranquil summer getaway, and green is very psychologically rewarding. I know you've had a tough 2025 so far, your self-care is out the window and you need that synthetic dopamine trickery. I got your back. Plants are the solution, and that's why we're going to move on to the gardens. But as I say that, we're not actually going to place any plants, we're going to do some terrain painting. And this part's really just for me because the invention of AI has ruined my desire to actually do any digital painting in Photoshop. So this is how I feel like I'm actually painting these days, by doing terrain in The Sims. I wanted to make some more curved features of the grounds that go around here because I've placed so many curves so far, why not just make more of them? But before we continue around the build, we're just going to sort out this roof here. And by sort out, I mean we're actually going to make it look more disheveled. We're going to place a bunch of, grass that's just growing up there. How are you going to access the roof? It's going to have grass growing on it. It's not going to be the most kept roof, is it? So we're just going to place some weeds and some grass. But we are going to put some solar panels on here because we're very eco-friendly. If this is in the UK, it's kind of negligible because we don't even have sun. It's like 27 degrees today, but is the sun shining? No, of course it's not. Why would it? But these solar panels might get a little tickle of sunlight and save you a few pennies on your electricity bill. So, maybe they're worth it. And you could probably get the price back that you paid for them within about 20 years or something like that. So, so these are just a bunch of live edit, various grasses and things that I'm layering up in all different shades of green because why pick one shade of green when you can have many? And I've specifically selected pieces here that will kind of sit nicely on that terrain surface because even though you can sculpt terrain in The Sims, many of the plants will just float on the highest level and it will just look really stupid. So live edit plants are kind of rubbish for that. They don't particularly adhere to the terrain. You are better off getting non-live edit plants. And I'm going to do some wall ivy because I wanted to, again, green this up. We need lots of health, recuperation, mental things, words, nouns in this build. So these are actually CC ivy, but you don't need them. I just like using these ones because they're a bit more modular and organic and I can make nice shapes that I like. But I am going to also use some of the base game ivy and blend this in. We're going to have some flowers, we're going to have some larger pieces, some smaller pieces, creating this like nice organic looking texture of plants. I will talk about plants for a really long time, so I'll just, stop now. And then here's another wall item, which is CC, again from the Felix Soho set, I think. But I'm just adding this again to just create some more variance and a bit more interest on the exterior wall because there wasn't enough of it and it was bugging me. So here we are. Here's a little stop motion. Well, it's not, it's just a phase cut. To show you this exterior garden area that I've worked on, because no one likes watching me build gardens, so I thought that I would just, do it this way. But as you can see, I've just pretty much placed all the same plants over and over again, which is why it's boring to watch. And layered this up, and chosen some rocks too that blend nicely with the terrain gradient. But last thing we're going to do is just add a little bit more green, because you really need that dose of green, as we've discussed. And while you're here getting some much needed respite, it does allow you to slightly, have greater access to come out and see the ivy. You can come out through this door on the balcony here and you can touch it and you can think, you know what, I might be on a spinning fireball, but the ivy is with me as well and we're all in this together. And maybe that will make you feel better. So the very last thing we're going to do on the exterior is I wanted to create some kind of, well, I didn't know if I wanted a rail or windows or what I wanted here because I'm very indecisive. But I did settle on this idea of having what sort of like a door that you can slide along and it sort of coils up on itself and folds back. So that's what I'm trying to create here with these custom partition pieces. Well, yes, CC custom content, but you wouldn't need to use these. You can do these with any pieces. I just like these ones because they look very folding door and it suited the aesthetic of this build. And they also come with these nice little sort of empty bits, so I could create what looks like the sort of notch in the ground where these slide along. Finish lining these up, and I'm going to show you this from a top-down view because we're going to lower the roof here, which isn't a real roof, it's just grass. And I'm going to show you that I've sort of done an interior layout already. We have some curves here. These are custom curved walls. And I've done this by using some, basically just shelves and wardrobes, which again are CC, but you wouldn't need to do this with CC. You can just do it with anything that is this shape. And by doing this, I've sort of made a layout. We will change it as we go through, but the first thing we're going to do is decorate the bedroom here at the back. A lovely curved bedroom, somewhat of a teardrop shape for when you go in there and cry. That was a lot, wasn't it? That was bold. That was just so blunt. I'm so sorry, but that is what you're doing here because you've come for a respite and you can really just let all those emotions out that are just stressing you. That's what I would do. Have an existential meltdown almost once a day currently. And there's no shame in that, it just makes us real people. So I'm coming in with this beige palette. Everything's going to be a little bit beige in here, but very warm beiges because we don't want it to be cold. We want it to be very uplifting, inspiring, so that we're very inspired while we pretend that we're going to come here and do a little bit of work and be productive in our getaway, but instead we just sit on a sofa and decompress for the entirety of our trip. So as we move to do an adjustment of the layout here in order to fit a bathroom, I would like you to know that it's currently 28 degrees in my room and my tropical house plants are thriving, but I am melting and congealing like a stubborn bar of microwave chocolate. So, but the reason we've done this is because we wanted to create a custom railing here and also to open up the hallway a little bit because we wanted to fit a bathroom because I realised that I hadn't actually planned where one was going to go and going to the toilet is probably going to be important to you on this getaway that I'm creating for you. So we're going to make this little nook here, this curved nook. It is of course going to be a curved bathroom because why wouldn't it be? Why would I make things easy for myself? And the railing here, you should not get attached to that either, the one by the stairs, because it wasn't custom enough, and later on I'm going to decide that we need to make that even more custom and just demolish it and start again. So, but you can get attached to the bathroom, which we're going to begin shortly, once I finish being pernickety about aligning these walls. So we're going to go quite simple with this. We've got a little bit of a floor difference texture here to signify where the shower is. And I liked using these wall lights, but we're going to dim them down a bit because they're a little bit too bright. And you don't want your eyes burning while you're in the shower. Light is good, but too much light is it's too much. It's not great when you're having a bit of an existential crisis. So we're going to keep this quite tranquil, quite, the sunlight in there, so we're having a nice time and we're getting those mental benefits, but not so much that we just feel like we want to close the curtains and crawl into a ball. We're going to get a plant in here. How that plant gets light to grow, I don't really know because the window is very small. Maybe it's just fake. But I don't like fake plants, so that was a decision I hadn't really thought about. We're going to get a toilet in here. That's not usable. This bathroom will change a bit. I did some play testing. That toilet, they couldn't use it. The sim couldn't use it because of the item behind it for some apparent reason. They also could not use this sink because I'm going to put some towels underneath it right now, and the towels were blocking them from using the sink. Like, where's the logic? Anyway, there are some adjustments in this, which you won't see at the end because I didn't actually record the bathrooms for the end viewing. So what I've just said, most of it's quite irrelevant, and you should just... There's a bathroom, okay? There's a bathroom. Leaving the bathroom, and we're going to go into the hallway here now. And there is this little bit at the end which had this piece of grass sticking through. I did try and delete that, but it was looking stupid on the outside. So I figured the best way to solve this solution would be just to make this a little cupboard, like a walk-in wardrobe, and cover that grass up with one of these wardrobe shelf things. I don't know what it is. Well, it's a wardrobe and a shelf. I just kind of said what it is, didn't I? Nouns are just so hard for me, and I don't think I'm going to get better at it, so I'm just going to embrace it at this point. I wanted to split this hallway up a little bit because it was just looking a little bit too samey, the floor. I wanted a carpet moment. The problem here is that the curves all have just like one floor section that will colour in the whole area whenever you try and do flooring where a curve is. So I've had to keep it in the middle here where there aren't actually any curved wall pieces. The game does have curves in it. It doesn't really want you to use them. That's another reason why I had to do these custom curved walls inside the build using these items rather than walls. Is because once you've placed a curved wall, the curved wall does not want you to place another curved wall anywhere near it because it can't calculate how it's meant to do that. But we're going to add this little nook here where it's going to be, I guess, a reading corner. You're probably not going to read here. What's going to happen here is you're going to take a book, you're going to read one page, and then you're just going to stare vacantly into a space in time and question, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's my goal? In a world where goals just, they feel far less achievable these days, don't they? Anyway, it's a really nice place to be. It's a really nice build. So I'm going to delete this rail now, which I told you I was going to do because it wasn't custom enough. And I'm going to use these Harry Clean blocks, I think they are. They're another CC item, like I said. Most of my CC is just these blocky sort of shape things that I use to build custom sort of, nonsense that no one asked for and I didn't need to do, but I insist on doing because I like to just have a repetitive, laborious task to take my mind away from things. So we're using, again, the cottage cheese living pack roof beam. And we're going to make the custom rail here. We're going to have that as the railing on the top. We're also going to use it to outline as a sort of skirting board around this railing. So much effort went into this railing. And for what? For what? Why? To create the one protruding corner in this build that I promised you wouldn't be here. But, another plant. There we go. And then we have this, what is that? A bookcase, a bookshelf thing. But I thought that would make... Look how good it works as a sort of railing. I'm just struggling with nouns today. I'm so hot. We've moved on, so I'm just not going to discuss that anymore. We're going to do another little one of these custom wall pieces here. And I'm going to use that to make some custom skirting board because the skirting was not board enough for me. And we're going to place it here in front of this to create some slightly different tones of wood. It was just looking a bit like it wasn't fitting for me right now. And then once again, we're going to make this even more custom, completely unnecessarily. No one asked for this. Getting that cottage cheese living roof beam. Just wanted to blend things in. I was just being so pernickety about colours and all sorts of things in this build that was just so unnecessary. But, maybe this is why it takes me so long to do a build. But now we're going to move on to what is an office space. Will you work in this office space? No, don't be ridiculous. It's just there so you can pretend that you're doing work while you're away, having a nice break. Because people like to feel productive, but you're just going to sit here and procrastinate. But I did think it would be nice to have a space where you can put a computer so that you can still have access to your YouTube videos while you're out here having a rest. So that's really what this is for. It's got nothing to do with being productive and actually doing work. And this is where you sit and you pretend you're working. And then your friend messages you on Discord or something, maybe WhatsApp, maybe you're Gen X and it's Facebook. They message you and say, hey, how's your getaway going? Have you done that work you wanted to do? And then you look at your one index card that has one note on it and you say, yeah, my novel that I'm writing out here is coming along really well. I'm mapping out the scene plans. And then you just, stare out the window blankly and zone out for a few hours. But you feel better after doing that. So I'm moving downstairs and we're going to separate here another little bathroom so you have more than one urination option. And these cabinets here are CC that I'm separating them here with. Don't ask me what it is because I've forgotten and I'm just too hot at this point. But we're gonna make a nice curved kitchen here, aligning this. Now the problem here is that they don't align very well with the edge of the platform. That always bothers me, so we're gonna have to do some tool mod stuff here to try and lower them into the ground. And we're gonna have the same when we do the kitchen cabinets as well. Like one of them's gonna jut up and just try and be different and special compared to all the other ones, even though no one asked it for its opinion. And we'll have to nudge that one down with the tool mod as well. And that's the thing when you make these builds, they're all just like crazy custom, and then the game doesn't want you to do it, is that everything starts to misbehave at a certain point. You just have to sort of deal with it. Keep stubborn, keep to your original plan, and just figure out how to make it work by banging your head against the PC really hard. That's my my main piece of advice when doing this kind of thing. So there we go, nudging that cabinet back down again. Behave yourself and stay there, cabinet. And we're going to curve this round and make a little bar area. I did think about putting a table here. I decided not to do it because I just wasn't feeling very table-y today. So I did this kitchen island curved, obviously, because why wouldn't it be? And we're going to do that instead, but nudge that around a bit because I did actually realise that I'm going to have to fit chairs around this at some point, and this room was slightly oddly shaped and I was worried about navigation. But in the end, the Sims can actually move through this house very well. It surprised me when I tested this. I thought I would have to change a load of things, but I didn't. So, haha, take that, Sims game. You know, you thought you could stop me, but better luck next time, maybe in the next build when I do something presumably even more stupid than this one. Now, colouring this kitchen, again, was a choice. My colour decision making was not very on point during this build, and things do change a lot. So you're just going to have to accept it when we come back and view it and it's different. Like now, it's different. But don't worry, because a decision was made, and I think it stays like this, who knows. I've just copied the upstairs bathroom down here. I didn't show you me doing that because it's basically just the same style, just slightly different layout. The shower isn't functional, I had to move that around a little bit. But again, you won't see it at the end because I forgot to film the bathrooms. Anyway, but now we're going to move into this sort of main living space where the staircase leads upstairs, and I thought, you know what, this needs some more custom curves, placing the same object over and over again. So that's what we're going to do. So now we're going to work on a seating area, but you'll find that we don't actually retrieve a single seat for a while. Because first, we need to create this unnecessary custom shelf to place behind the seats as the beginning of our overly complex wall design in this room. And now we have a seat. But we've only placed that as a guide for our continuation of this wall shelf. We've got out a couple of friends for that seat because you might want to invite a friend over, maybe you won't, maybe you just want to sit and vegetate alone, which, you know what, I endorse that. And you know, Aristotle once said, a curved environment helps with the flow of the mind. And that's an absolute lie, and I just made that up. But I was really tired at this point, so you can't blame me for that. But the Sims can still sit on these with these wall pieces in front of them. I tested it, it does work, it works fine, don't worry about it. So now we're going to continue the wall and make it even more complex and unnecessary than it was in the first place. Using these, I mean, we have a piece in game that kind of looks like this now, but I decided that I was still going to use this CC piece because I'm stubborn and I like this one. It has a nice texture on it. And then we're going to extend this curve to make, I don't even know what this is. It's just a curved load of abstract nonsense at this point, isn't it? But it looks quite nice. So there we go, that's nice. Fill this in, and thankfully, these block pieces don't actually fight the texture of each other, which is a nice change from the usual pieces in this game. Here we go, a few more seats. Don't ask me what the style of this room is because it's a little bit of everything. I feel like I'd just become so delirious with all of my choices in this build so far and how every single one of them had been complex and unnecessary that I didn't really care anymore what the style was of this build. It's just tranquil and nice and cozy and cute and, you know. So we're going to make another little section here that is a sort of built-in TV stand area. And then we're going to add just a second seating bit here. Now this one doesn't work because it's right next to a wall, which meant I couldn't place my special little wall piece to fill the bottom of this chair in. And I had to use that cottage living roof beam again to do that. So the Sims don't, here it is, yeah, the Sims don't sit here because they can't get past that because I don't know, they're just like allergic to it or something. And now I found these art pieces, which are not CC. But you might not have seen them because they're these swatches of another piece, which is from Get Famous, I think. And it's one of those where you have to go deep dive. The game wants you to waste your time looking for swatches of things when it comes to rugs and paintings. And as if I look at the build I'm doing, you think I have time for that? Well, apparently I did, because I found these swatches that I'd never seen once in my life before. But I thought these looked nice, and then I thought I would use some more custom wall elements to try and make this nice frame. It's just so excessive. It's just a bit excessive. But it looks nice. It's tranquil. I don't know what the art's trying to tell us. Maybe something about the social climate of the world. But then one last final little thing I'm going to do here is place some shelves to create another unnecessary ceiling addition. And that's that for this build. Finally. Here it is. Here's the exterior. It's all nice and finished. This was just too much, wasn't it? Like, why did I do this? The pool here, again, the pool is functional. All of this is surprisingly functional, considering not a single piece of it is a shape that the game actually wants me to make. We've got so many flowers, all of it. Get that green in. Nice little mailbox here, and let's go through the front doors. And this is what the kitchen ended up looking like. I know it's a little bit different to how we left it. That's because I was indecisive and came back and added a bunch more things, like these tiles where the sink is. I've cluttered the place up as well. We're gonna have clutter everywhere. I didn't do that on camera because, like, oh, you know, this was long enough. You didn't want to see that. This archway into the living room. There's some nice angles in this build. What can we call them? Angles in a curved build? Who knows? Here's the seating area, some cushions, some mats. You can play chess on the table there if you want. Or maybe you won't want to. I don't like playing chess because I always lose. But I'm not a very good loser. Some plants. I placed some plants in here, but not too many because I think the outdoors has enough plants. And if you're coming in here, it might actually genuinely just be for a plant break because there's so many of them outside. Up the staircase, and we have this area that's a workspace that you're probably not really going to use other than to watch YouTube videos, although how are you going to do it on that tiny little laptop? I'm not sure. That's a bit too small for me. I've also placed some light switches and some plugs and some air conditioning vents here. A few more plants above the stairs, and we're going to move around here to this. This looks like a tight corner, I will give you that, but Sims can actually navigate this corner, don't worry. There's the little nook. I've added some books there. Lovely. And we're going to go through into the bedroom in this very slow camera transition because I don't really know why this one ended up so slowly, but, you know, suspense. Here we are. Was it worth the wait? This is the bedroom. All nice and warm tones. I like a warm tone bedroom, so here it is. And then I'm just going to take you up here and show you what the floor looks like from an aerial view. We've got the top here, how the walls ended up. It's all quite neat considering that half the walls are just fake. And then here's the lower floor. You can see there is that sort of unsightly ground area, but you just have to get over that, I guess. Out here to the pool, and I will say, thank you so much for watching. If you want to dislike this video because it was a disheveled mess, I understand. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.